Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another great event. My name is Sierra Ladroma. I am the project manager for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You'll all receive an email with a form to complete after this event. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Feel free to use the chat option to add questions or comments throughout the entire webinar. Today's conversation is with Julia Hunt, creator of Julia May Photography and Life Coach. Julia is passionate about helping entrepreneurs, influencers, and businesses express their stories genuinely through photography. As a life coach, Julia helps others discover, set and achieve their goals, and find clarity. When she's not balancing two businesses, she loves cooking, creative projects, and time with her family. Julia, welcome and thank you for being with us here today to discuss a topic that is so important for all entrepreneurs.
Hello, welcome everybody. So this topic is actually one that I'm very passionate about and continually working on because it is always a work in progress. And so with that, since we've all rushed into this class and just getting ready to like settle in and now it's time to focus, let's take a moment to breathe. And this is actually one of my tips. So we'll go ahead and work that in right now. So this is what's called a breath snack. I learned this from my coach and holistic practitioner. And it's a really great, quick one to give yourself a little bit of peace and centeredness. So the technique works like this. You breathe through an open mouth as if you are running at the top or even taking a yawn. So it's nice deep breath through the top of your chest, okay? And we're just gonna breathe like this until you feel yourself kind of catch just a little bit of a buzz. I bet you didn't think you were gonna do that today. Okay, so let's get started right now. And then when you get done with that, then we'll just savor that feeling and just go back to normal breathing. Okay, ready, go. Okay, close your eyes. Bring your thoughts to the present. Nice gentle breathing through your nose for your returning to normal breathing. If your thoughts go somewhere else, just put them on a cloud, let them float away. Just stay right here with a clear, nice, clear mind. Let the tension roll out of your shoulders. And slowly let your eyes open. Hi, that puts us in such a nice place to get started with today. And like I said, that is one of my favorite tips for just clearing my mind and clearing away anxiety. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see, it's not letting me do it.
Go ahead and try now.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, now my face is holding up where I want to be. There we go. Okay. Okay, searching for entrepreneurial balance. So one thing to keep in mind with this is that life, as we all know, is a journey, not a destination, and it's definitely not ever perfect. So there's actually not a magical solution. So I'm not going to give you a magical solution to finding balance. And that's also because there's also so many different people. There's going to be so many different solutions for different people. Creating balance once you get started on this road just becomes this living, breathing, constant existence that guides you on adventures rather than being something that is actually achieved. You're going to drive yourself absolutely crazy if you try to achieve balance. Because life just doesn't really work that way. So I like to think of it more, less like a set of scales and more of just a bending reed and just kind of bending and going with what life is doing. So the first thing I like to start out with, and I do this, I like to do this for myself a couple times a year. And it's just really important for not just achieving balance, but just the direction you're taking in your life. And the big question is, what's your big picture? What's your purpose? What are you doing all of this for? And an exercise that you can do on your own is to pick out a time in the future. Sometimes this is called the rocking chair exercise. So you picture yourself at the end of your life, you're sitting on a porch, you're in a rocking chair, you're just enjoying that moment right then and there, and you're looking back over your life and you're looking at, where you've ended up and what do you want to be thinking about at that time? Who's important in your life? What do you want to have achieved? And kind of spend some time looking at that big picture. And the reason that this is so important is because as we get into some of the different tips to being able to achieve balance, a lot of them are a lot easier to do when you have the big picture of what you want your life to, the whole sum of your life to end up being. Because as you make your decisions, sometimes you're not going to be able to do absolutely everything. And you're going to have to make some sacrifices. So which do you choose? Well, you choose the direction that will take you in the direction of that big picture in the end. And I like to think of it kind of like having a painting and you're creating your life's masterpiece. And each little brushstroke is like a decision. And the good news is, if you know anything about painting, you can, especially oil painting, you can scrape that little part off if you decided that you really went the wrong direction. Or you can add color and have a happy accident and make things, turn out beautifully. But always being able to back up and look at the big picture and not just looking at the little tiny brush strokes that you're making, so that you have the portrait and the masterpiece that you want in the end. And creating balance it's just such an important part of that part. And next, abundance mindset. Now this in itself is a topic that could take a lifetime to talk about. So I've boiled it down to something very, very simple. Is the focus is on limitless opportunities. When you think about what you have instead of what you don't. So let's just pause about that. You spend more time thinking about what you have and less time thinking about what you don't have. And so when you start feeling that gratitude and the happiness with the things that you do have, you're going to end up feeling happier, more confident, more satisfied, have deeper relationships, feel motivated and interested, and your life will begin to naturally start sliding into balance. So even if you don't use any of the tips and tricks that I give you here in changing that mindset is one that will start just kind of helping everything start sliding into balance just without even trying. So you're going to spend less and less time and energy on what you don't have, worrying about things, and more time on your beautiful, balanced life. You'll also begin to attract more opportunities and happiness, and life will begin to flow. So, we're actually kind of starting to talk about the law of attraction a little bit. But they go kind of hand in hand, and it also helps with the balance. I've got a little story that I kind of came up with. I was inspired by this picture of these donuts. So let's say you ended up with an extra donut, and they're the world's best donuts in the world. The world's best donuts in the world. They are fantastic donuts. Nobody cares about sugar or calories or fat or carbs or anything, or gluten. They're the best donuts you're going to ever have, but you only need one. So you look over and you see two people. One person has this scowly frown on their face, and they're busy thinking about what they don't have and how hungry they are, and just kind of, and they're hunched over and they're scowling, and they actually don't even see you as they brush past. The other person is grateful and happy for what they have, spend a lot of time just thinking about being happy, and they see you standing there with your two donuts, obviously wanting to give one away. They look at one of your donuts, and it's pretty obvious. You don't even have to say anything. You could just hand that person the donut. So obviously the person that was, allowing things to happen for them and allowing themselves to enjoy what's around them gets to have this fantastic donut, while the other person runs off. And not only that, you end up striking up a conversation and becoming friends, and who knows, maybe that's the person you were looking for to partner with your business, or becomes your best friend, or someone that's important in your life. So that's just kind of a very simplified example of abundance mindset and how you can end up attracting happiness into your life. So with that, we'll get started talking about some of the nuts and bolts for creating balance in your life. Now, as I said before, everybody is different, and there are so many different personalities. Again, this is a topic that we could probably spend a lifetime on just talking about balance. But I wanted to get down to actual, tips and tricks. And even if you don't actually use any of these, it does start your mind towards what would work for you. And it gives you somewhere to start and trying all of this to start feeling a little bit more balance in your life. And they're not in any particular order. So prioritizing and making sacrifices. The truth is you can't do it all. Sometimes a sacrifice needs to be made. So go back again and think about your purpose. Does your decision take you closer to that big picture in the end? Every morning and I'm going to get to this as another tip, I set intentions for the day. And I think about what is absolutely important. Now, my natural tendency is to make myself this giant to-do list. Like, I can't possibly get all that done one day. About each one, okay, what's really important to me? What's really important that has to be done today? What can I actually get done today? And I go through and I make that priority list. And if I do that every day, some things never get put back on my list. Like, they were never that important. And it used to cause me an awful lot of anxiety, and that was something else I spent a lot of time on. So that gets us now to time blocking. So what are today's priorities, and how much time do you need to successfully complete each task? Now, this is definitely something that you can look up. If you want to spend more time learning about time blocking, but it does help with kind of scheduling out your day and making sure that you've got enough time for everything that you have. And then that way you're successful in the end of all of your tasks. Do I have a question in the chat? Oh, look. Oh no.
There's just a bit of a freeze.
Okay. Um, so let me know if I freeze up on something that you need me to repeat. And you can go ahead and raise your hand and catch my attention if I did freeze. Okay. So another method that you can look up as well is batching. So there's a lot of ways that you can work to batch. So some things are, what tasks can you do that are all, that go together, that you can get done at the same time so that you aren't multitasking things that are just going to distract you. So one thing I like to do is laundry while I'm cleaning the house and maybe cooking. So that way I can start a load of laundry, I can start something maybe in the oven, and then I can, instead of timer, of course, and then I can go clean the house. And they're all kind of happening simultaneously, and I can actually efficiently multitask. Whereas if I try to do laundry or clean house while I'm doing something for my business, I'm going to end up getting wildly distracted one direction or another and not be very efficient. Another thing is, another great example is, and I don't actually like to do this one myself, but I kind of do it. Some people will actually do all of their cooking on Sunday for the entire week. That way they don't have to cook the rest of the week. I personally think things start tasting rather old within a few days. But I will still cook, plan out my week, and I'll have a meal that I cook that lasts like 2 or 3 days. And then I have another one that I make that lasts 2 or 3 days, and I alternate. And but that's another way to kind of help, just a time saver. All right, so next we're talking about schedule. I love schedules. My husband does not. So this is actually one that works great for me. And I put this suggestion here so that, you know, it might work for you and your family, but it does not work for my family. So create a schedule and calendar that everyone has access to, home and work. That way everyone is all on the same page and you know what everybody's doing. But that doesn't work for my family. Perfect example of that is if we had a schedule and everybody had a calendar. When my husband scheduled someone to come during this class to look at our drywall, and I have a big spot in my office that needs to be fixed, then, you know, he would have known that I had this class scheduled at the same time. But we still got everything worked out, obviously, but still, that's just one little example. And if it's working properly, then everyone can communicate better that way. Okay, so next is a perfect forward motion. This is one of my favorite things. So don't let back, push forward and learn from your mistakes. And I'm talking about everything, not just finding balance in your life. You know, don't let the feeling of life feeling imbalanced hold you back. Just get started and let yourself make mistakes. And sometimes moving forward imperfectly is what actually ends up being perfect. Whoa, kind of a mind blow moment. Like, what? And that's one of the things that's been key to my success is actually people like my imperfections. And that's actually what makes me me. So I've actually been doing better after I started doing that. Okay, goal setting. This is a really big one. Another huge topic that could take a long time to talk about. But creating tangible goals is a great tool for moving you forward to your purpose and help you create balance. So that's another, I'm not even going to talk about it that much more because you're going to need to spend more time than we have time today to talk about. But great goal setting is another way to help you with being more efficient with your time, head in the right direction, and and be able to create the balance that you need. Okay, time wasters. Now, this is a really dangerous place because we're going to see right next to it where it says, don't judge yourself. Time wasters are that, yes, you find some extra time, but at the same time, if you enjoy what you're doing, like watching TV, or one of my guilty pleasures is playing games on my phone, then if you judge yourself, then you're actually wasting energy, and you might as well enjoy what you're doing. So pay attention and find where you waste time. And just be careful you don't cut away something that relaxes you. I've had times that I'm playing a game on my phone, while I'm thinking about a problem, and all of a sudden the strategy that I used on the game actually helps me figure out my problem. I've also been take a break and decide to watch TV for a little while in the afternoon. I love working from home. And someone actually says a quote on something I'm watching that is an absolute aha moment for me. So even with time wasters, there's a balance. Next thing we're going to talk about is energy drainers. How much time and energy do you spend worrying about things that are out of your control? I spend less time than I used to, but I'm definitely not perfect at not spending that energy that direction. So if you're like I was, you're kind of like, well, all these tips and tricks are great, but I don't have time to do anything like take care of myself or I just don't have any time. There's no time anywhere. So one of the best places to start is just with your mental thoughts. You can waste an awful lot of time or waste an awful lot of energy and therefore time in worrying about things you don't have any control over. Now, this takes quite a bit of practice. I'm still working on it, for sure. But it's one of the biggest drains to your energy and time is just doing all that worrying. So the next one is I'm going to actually say something that seems totally counterintuitive. Mix business and family. Okay, so you have to pick and choose. You have to find something that works for you. So I love being an aunt. My nieces have loved not only helping with my social media, but they actually helped me with my business quite a few times. As I was getting back into photography, I was getting new equipment, I was trying new things out. And so they used to come and let me practice doing pictures on them. And there was actually, we used to get together to get our nails done, kind of have a spa day. And so after I decided to start my business, I said, hey, ladies, let's have I know someone that's a hairdresser. Let's go have a big spa day, get your hair done and your makeup, and we'll just have this big glamorous fashion. And of course, teenage girls, yeah, they're totally all about that. And we totally had the best time. And then when it came time for my marketing, I was like, Instagram? What's Instagram? I had no idea what it was. And here's one of the major, of course, everybody knows about it now. I couldn't figure out how to use it on my own. So I went to my nieces and we spent the afternoon with them teaching me how to use Instagram. They taught me how to use Snapchat. Even though I was using Facebook, they actually taught me how to use Facebook. And those were all some really great memories. They've since become, they worked for me as assistants and have just helped me out with my business quite a few times. And so it was a really great way that it was not only a great resource that I had, but also a really great way for us to get to spend time together. So now let's get back up to don't judge yourself. Okay, so now you're aware of time wasters and energy drainers, and we talked about a abundance mindset, and we have some of these great tips and tricks that we're going. Don't spend the energy on judging yourself, or judging yourself for judging yourself for judging yourself for judging yourself. Okay, so that's a big circle that you can end up in. And I do it to myself all the time. And so just like I did when we started with the breath snack, anytime you find yourself judging yourself, I like to just set it on a little cloud and let it drift away. It's not good, it's not bad, there's no judgment about the judgment. Just let it drift away and get yourself out of that circle, because then again, you're getting yourself back into an energy drainer where you're spending your time in this loop in your head, where you could be spending time focusing on something that you want to focus on. Practical tip is automate, outsource, and delegate. Get some help. At first when you're, one person business, it's really hard to find help. And that's one thing that's really great about this day and age, is we can find some pretty inexpensive ways to start automating things. So start putting together a loose plan as if you're already a successful business. And as you move through things, you can start adding in more help. But one of the greatest things that entrepreneurs have the toughest time getting rid of is control everything. But the truth is, you just can't do everything, and you can't sacrifice everything either. So we already talked about sacrifice, and sometimes you have to make some sacrifices, but sometimes you have to control less, and get yourself some help. If you start having employees, you have to learn how to train them and trust them and let them run with it. They're probably going to come up with something better than you can anyway. Okay, so the next thing is to be creative. What works for you? So the important thing is to take what you've learned and adapt it to your situation. We're all very different ducks, very different people. What works for me is not going to work for you, and vice versa. So just take this and run with it and play with it and see what works. Okay, so now this is one that should work for everyone though, because it takes a village. Start drawing the people around you that you need. Ask yourself some questions. What do you need help with the most? Who do you know? Who is right in front of you that can help you with your business or help you with your family? Do what you can with who and what you know. This doesn't have to be a paid service. I think a lot of times I used to jump to, okay, I'm having a hard time cleaning my house now that I'm juggling. Back when I was starting my business and I was working full time and then starting my businesses, I need someone to come clean my house, and I hired somebody to come clean my house. That was all well and good. But after I quit my full-time job and started my business, then, the budget needed to be cut. And so that was going to go away. So, some people, the example might be you have young children at home, and you're going to start trying to start this business. Maybe draw people around you that can help you with backup for if they're maybe if they're at school. Is there somebody that can pick them up if they're sick? Just get that support system around you. For me, the first thing, because I was a restaurant manager before, and the first thing I realized one day when I decided to start doing this particular part of balance was realizing I am surrounded by young people who are both social media influencers and models and actors and teachers, and there were a lot of resources there. So not only did I have more people to practice on, I also had people who were social media experts, and after I had my lessons with my nieces, we could talk social media strategy. So I was learning how to do social media strategy just in our everyday conversations at work. And they were more than happy to model for me, and the pictures were good enough that they used them on their social media, and then I started getting exposure. And so that's kind of the part of that. Another part of it is, sometimes selling things is difficult for me. And so I have this secret society of friends that I have built around me for those days when I'm getting ready to go on a big sales call and all of a sudden my confidence just drops out through the bottom of my stomach. I can call them and they'll all pat me on the back and tell me, and it's just this weird thing with me, that they all support me and get me back up and to supported, and off I go on the call, and I make the call just fine, and it's fine and dandy. But I would psych myself out of so many things if I didn't have that support system, and a group that I could just text real quick and say, help, I'm doing it again, and they get me back up and running, and no judgments either. So those are some examples that I have. Another part is being flexible. Take things in stride. This was a really hard one for me. If it doesn't work this time, adjust and keep on trucking. Life throws curveballs, so bend and weave as you need to. Don't waste time again and energy again in being rigid. Again, this goes right back to worrying about things you don't have any control over. This all works into the next one, which is necessary. It's necessary in life, it's necessary in business, and it's necessary to be able to get balance in your life. So nope, sorry, you're going to have to fail at this to get good at it. Oh, man, what failure? I can't just be perfect all the time. No, in fact, it's impossible for you to be able to succeed without failing. Okay, there's books and books and books written about this too. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier, setting your intentions. So every day, set your important intentions for the day, either before bed or in the morning. This sets your day up with focus. And again, this is one thing that you can do that fits with your own schedule and what's going on in your life. Sometimes busy parents, I don't know when you find time to breathe, but maybe it's at night right before bed after you put the kids to bed and you've got that little narrow window of time for yourself. Spend that time setting your day up the next day so that it's ready to go. And you can be more intentional, and you can set yourself up for success by setting intentions that you can actually achieve, rather than feeling like you didn't get half of everything done because you wrote your list twice too long. That makes sense. Okay, self-care, another one, little blurb for a huge topic, and it's so important. Mindful eating, fun exercise, meditation, breathing, yoga, any kind of body healing stuff, spa, naps, whatever works for you. You can't do this without being the best version of yourself. And trust me, I know how hard this is. I spent years just pushing through everything, pushing through pain, how tired I was, feeling sick. The list just goes on, and I ignored taking care of myself. And now I pay for it a lot. So again, another topic that we could talk endless hours on. So we're just going to move now to setting boundaries. So this goes for family just as much as it does work. you set boundaries, things like I don't work on weekends or in the evening, and just be pretty firm with that. Now, sometimes at my house, we do make some exceptions and we talk about it as a family. Let's see the chat. Oh, okay, that's funny. Right, I saw a spelling error up here too. So I'll have to go back and get those. Now what? Yeah, right, I'm bending, I'm a read. So a little example is, sometimes I have a boundary that, nothing comes out of my desk. My office is my office. It's my workspace. You wouldn't walk over to my office if I had it in a separate location and take things off my desk or out of my drawers. Those are for work. But sometimes I let my husband borrow a pen out of my desk, and sometimes I might have a weekend photo session, but generally I enforce. Again, it just you just bend with and go with the flow. Okay, so those are lists of my main tips and tricks. I'm sure I could keep thinking of more, but one thing that's always important is be ready to reevaluate. Reevaluate where you're at. Reevaluate if something's working. If it's not working, that's fine. Don't judge yourself. It just means it's just more information. It just means you need to find a different way to handle things and go at it. So eventually you will get good at this. Okay, so I'm going to stop screen sharing. Right. Well, are there any questions?
I actually have a couple questions, Julia.
Sure.
What advice do you have for someone who is just feeling so overwhelmed with the process of starting a business, or maybe pivoting with COVID, that they can't seem to focus on what their first step would be?
Well, there's no right or wrong anything, just different experiences. So the main advice I have is just start in somewhere, anywhere, just get started. Even if you completely flop and throw what you're working on out, it's still forward motion because you have learned something. You learned something that didn't work. So now you can set that aside and you can move on to the next thing.
That's awesome. So with goal setting,
Mm-hmm.
what is an advice that you have for someone who never really made those actionable steps to actually take time to set their goals, and it's all just kind of kept in their minds?
Well, one thing I would look up is using SMARTER goals. Is SMARTER goals. And there's all kinds of information online, and you can get started learning how to do really great actionable goal, and getting things written down so that you have something to look at and go back and refer to. And I'm actually going to be teaching a class in goal setting with you guys coming up in September. So watch for that, because I'll go into much more detail about this. But and I love visualization, and that's part of what's really great about writing everything down, because it gives you something to look at. It's something you can post it on your wall. You can have it in a notebook, and you can go back and refer to it and help stay on track with what your goals are. And of course, being a photographer, I'm very visual. So having pictures for everything is is one of my favorite things, and it's one of the best ways that I've been able to manifest things happening in my life.
So with the numerous, well, you have numerous services, you have two businesses. Is there a certain way that you start your day so that you list your intentions and so it's all kind of organized into the umbrellas of what you and what your services are? How you find your own balance to maintain your day to just keep moving forward?
Right. So a few times a year, I go back and reevaluate where I'm at. And I may rewrite my goals, or I may decide to do something different with them. And then I have my goals posted over here, right over to this side of my computer. And then I just kind of go with both what is actually happening and then in my business, and watching for opportunities that pop up. So I try to keep myself flexible with something going a different direction than what I thought was going to happen, but it is actually the right direction, better than maybe what I planned on having happen. So I try to stay flexible with that too. And then, yes, I break them down into maybe a yearly to 6 month to 3 month to all the way down to my daily goals. And so when I'm setting my intentions for the day, depending on which business or which umbrella I'm looking at that needs my attention, then I will refer to that as well as just what needs to get done tomorrow.
Awesome. So one of the things that you talked about was boundaries, asking for help, and relying on the people in your life for support. How would someone know, or how would an entrepreneur know when it is time to ask for help? Or what
Well,
are some signs, I guess, or maybe personal examples?
for me is, I will spend some time, if I'm really having trouble with something, I might spend some time meditating and clearing my mind and just getting that anxiety sort of out of me. And if I still can't get some actionable steps, or like the example I used where I was getting ready to go into a sales call and freaked, I was really freaked, and I just knew that I was out of control. So then that was a really easy one to figure out. But generally speaking, if it's not that epic, then if I just feel really stuck, then I will reach out to a mentor or coach. If I've spent a couple days even not figuring something out, then I'll reach out to them.
Perfect. So self-care has been such a hot topic. I mean, especially now with the pandemic and even before. How can we make sure we make time for self-care, or even how does someone make time for self-care if they feel they are just so busy?
Right. That's a great question, because it is so hard. And so start small, because when you start small, then you start making progress, and then you start being more efficient with your time, and then you can find more and more time. It's kind of one of those things where you have to make the time to do it, and give yourself permission to do it, in order to actually be more efficient and have more time. So it's definitely one of those terrible catch-22 cycles, wiggling in 10 minutes to do a little meditation, 10 minutes to do a little breath snack and clear your mind. Now you're more clear and more efficient. And guess what? Maybe something that took you 45 minutes before now only takes you 30 minutes because you gave yourself that little 10-minute break. So now, I don't know what the math is from that, but now you've got a few more minutes of time that you could use for self-care, or you can get something else done, or you can just be done earlier and maybe get 15 more minutes of sleep.
Yeah. An example that I have is sometimes I just need to go outside for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
just be present outside for a minute and then go back to whatever I was working on. So self-care can look so different for every single person.
Absolutely. And, another thing that I go back to also is cleaning up your negative thoughts, which, as I said, it takes a lot of practice. And sometimes you have to get coaching and you have to read books and you have to really put a lot of effort into changing from a negative mindset to a positive one. Um, but just that energy alone that you spend in negative thinking and self-deprecation, and I think I used the right word there, um, is a lot of wasted energy that could be used towards something else. Um, and let's see, what was I going to say here?
Well, I think you're shining a lot of light on the importance of unlearning to be able to take care of yourself as a person, especially as an entrepreneur,
Yes,
because entrepreneurs are doing it all
right.
until they get to the point where they don't have to.
Absolutely. And then you just take on bigger responsibilities when that happens. So it's not like, again, achieving balance. You're never going to achieve balance, and it's just the same thing with the entrepreneurial life. You need to start now, while you're starting your business, enjoying the journey, because there's no destination.
Okay, another question I have for you. I love the concept of being selfish with your energy. What are some suggestions or ways to say no? Or how do we figure out when to say no?
No, this is one that I have a hard time with too, and I've had to do it the hard way. Um, I have completely worn myself out and said yes to the point where it was really costing me all my time and energy. Um, and so let me tell you, if you can't figure out how to do this, then you're going to learn it the way I did, which you just get to the point where you just say, I'm sorry, I can't. Um, so that's what I've done, is I just say, well, I'm sorry, I'm booked, because I am. Or I might be booked with time with my husband in the afternoon, because I put that on my schedule, and so I'll just say, well, I'm already booked this afternoon, but I have thus and such time available. Um, and I started saying that about my nights and my weekends too. And it's the same thing. Just I've already got something planned. It's the simplest, easiest answer to that question that I found works for me.
Perfect. And we have Jacqueline who is asking how to find you on Instagram and Facebook. So I am just typing in your handle.
Okay. Yep. And I don't remember if we were talking about this before we got started, or if we did after we hit record. But I do mesh all of my photography and my coaching business together, because that was sort of happening anyway. I found myself on photo shoots because that's so vulnerable, and I bring out people's genuine sides. We started getting on coaching topics and talking about some things that I felt like I needed more training on. So that's how I got started with coaching. And then I also got started with coaching because I was in coaching in order to be able to run my own business. Um, so, okay, back to my original thought, which was I have my businesses meshed together because they are so coexisting together. And so when you go to my Instagram, usually I am actually talking about coaching type topics. But it's pretty just fun, and I promote the businesses that I work with to do photos and some promos and stuff, but not a lot about how-to stuff with photography. But sometimes I cover that too.
Perfect. So as we get down to the end of the webinar, what is one piece of advice that you have for entrepreneurs with finding that balance as they might be in the process of starting their business, or maybe they're on year 5?
Well, for me, really the key has been cleaning up my mindset, being in a more positive space, thinking more abundantly has been the base of everything that I've done to finding balance has been that portion of it is cleaning up and thinking more positively. And it has been so amazing how much energy I have saved just in being thankful and grateful for what I have and where I'm at and everyone and everything that's around me.
That's great. Thank you. What you just said reminded me of a book I read recently called The Happiness Advantage. I highly recommend it to everyone who is on here, and it's such a good book. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Julia, for your time today. I so look forward to the Focus Me session that you will be leading in September. Now that information is up on our site. So if you are interested in spending more time with Julia and really deep diving into your own personal goals as an entrepreneur, apply, and hopefully we'll see you in September.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. Okay, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Bye.